welcome to a very special reading by the Practical Patriot on this Memorial Day 2021. We are thankful to all of those who have given their lives in service to our country. This speech was given by James A. Garfield on May 30th, 1868, on the very first Decoration Day, which is what Memorial Day was first known as. I am oppressed with a sense of impropriety of uttering words on this occasion. If silence is ever golden, it must here be beside the graves of 15,000 men, whose lives were more significant than speech, and whose death was a poem, the music of which can never be sung. With words we make promises, plight faith, praise virtue. Promises may not be kept. Plighted faith may be broken, and vaunted virtue be only the cunning mask of vice. We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know that they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue. The noblest man that lives, there still remains a conflict. He must still withstand the assaults of time and fortune, must still be assailed with temptations, before which lofty natures have fallen. But with these the conflict ended. The victory was won, when death stamped on them the great seal of heroic character and closed a record which years can never blot. I know of nothing more appropriate on this occasion than to inquire what brought these men here, what high motive led them to condense life into an hour, and to crown that hour by joyfully welcoming death. Let us consider. 8 years ago, this was the most unwarlike nation on the earth. For nearly 50 years, no spot in any of these states had been the scene of battle. 30 millions of people had an army of less than 10,000 men. The faith of our people in the stability and permanence of their institutions was like their faith in the eternal course of nature. Peace, liberty, and personal security were blessings as common and universal as sunshine and flowers and fruitful seasons, and all sprang from a single source, the old American principle that all owe due submission and obedience to the lawfully expressed will of the majority. This is not one of the doctrines of our political system. It is the system itself. It is our political firmament, in which all other truths are set, as stars in heaven. It is the encasing air, the breath of the nation's life. Against this principle, the whole weight of the rebellion was thrown. Its overthrow would have brought such ruin as might follow in the physical universe if the power of gravitation were destroyed. And, quote, nature's concord broke. Among the constellations, war were sprung. Two planets rushing from aspect malign, of fiercest opposition in mid-sky, should combat, and their jarring spheres confound, end quote. The nation was summoned to arms by every high motive which can inspire men. 2 centuries of freedom had made its people unfit for despotism. They must save their government or miserably perish. As a flash of lightning in a midnight tempest reveals the abysmal horrors of the sea, so did the flash of the first gun disclose the awful abyss into which rebellion was ready to plunge us. In a moment, the fire was lighted in 20 million hearts. In a moment, we were the most warlike nation on the earth, and in a moment, we were not merely a people with an army. We were a people in arms. The nation was in column, not all at the front, but all in the array. I love to believe that no heroic sacrifice is ever lost, that the characters of men are molded and inspired by what their fathers have done, that treasured up in American souls are all the unconscious influences of the great deeds of the past, from Anglecourt to Bunker Hill. It was such an influence that led a young Greek 2,000 years ago, when musing on the Battle of Marathon, the trophies of the Miltiades will not let me sleep. Could these men be silent in 1861? These whose ancestors had felt the inspiration of battle on every field where civilization had fought in the last 1,000 years? Read their answer in this green turf. Each for himself gathered up the cherished purposes of life, its aims and ambitions, its dearest affections, and flung all with life itself into the scale of battle. And now consider this silent assembly of the dead. What does it represent? Nay, rather, what does it not represent? It is an epitome of the war. Here are sheaves reaped in the harvest of death from every battlefield of Virginia. If each grave had a voice to tell us what its silent tenant last saw and heard on earth, we might stand with uncovered heads to hear the whole story of the war. We should hear that one perished when the first great drops of the crimson shower began to fall, and when the darkness of that first disaster at Manassas fell like an eclipse on the nation, that another died of disease while wearily waiting for winter to end, that this one fell on the field in sight of the spies of Richmond, little dreaming that the flag must be carried through 3 more years of blood before it should be planted in that citadel of treason, and that one fell on the tide of war has swept us back till the roar of the rebel guns shook the dome of yonder Capitol and re-echoed in the chambers of the Executive Mansion. We should hear mingled voices of the Rappahannock, the Rapidan, the Chickahominy, and the James, solemn voices from the wilderness, and triumphant shouts from the Shenandoah, from Petersburg, and from Five Forks, mingled with the wild acclaim of victory and the sweet chorus of returning peace. The voices of these dead will forever fill the land like holy benedictions. What other spot so fitting for their last resting place as under the shadow of the Capitol, saved by their valor? Here, where the grim edge of battle joined. Here, where all hope and fear and agony of their country centered. Here let them rest, asleep on the nation's heart, entombed in the nation's love. What hither our children's children shall come to pay their tribute of grateful homage. For we are here met today by the happy suggestion of a great society. Assemblies like this are gathering at this hour in every state of the Union. Thousands of soldiers are today turning aside in the march of life to visit the silent encampments of dead comrades who once fought by their side. For many thousand homes whose light was put out when a soldier fell, there go forth today to join these solemn processions, loving kindred and friends, from whose heart the shadow of grief will never be lifted till the light of the eternal world dawns upon them. And here are children, little children, to whom the war left no father, but the Father above. By the most sacred right, theirs is the chief place today. They come with garlands to crown their victor fathers. I will delay the coronation no longer. Thank you for joining me today. Be blessed and stay free, and remember that those blessings and that freedom came from people who fought and died for this country. Have a great day.